Hello guys, so welcome back. I hope you've enjoyed the series so far. This is the last one. So today we're going to be going over the track and we're going to be looking at how I mixed it. So we'll be looking at all the plugins that I use and essentially just the little finer details. You'll be quite surprised to see that there's not actually a lot that I do use. I've used some free plugins and I've also used some paid plugins as well. So there's a little bit of a mix there, and I'll also advise you as well on what else you can use instead for some of those paid plugins. But if you do have the spare pennies, then get the ones that I'm using, because I find they're very, very good. Okay, so shall we just jump in and see what happens?
Okay guys, so we're in Logic now. We're going to be looking at the mix, and I just want to say that it's been really fun to mix. It's been a bit of a dream. So this is a lot easier than a lot of the stuff that I'll be going over in the future. But let's just take a quick listen to it, shall we? So I'm going to play it from about here towards the end. We'll just listen to the last half, and then if you enjoy it and you want to listen to all of it, then I'll put a link in the description to SoundCloud, and you can go and check it out there. Okay, cool. So you can hear there, it's really well mixed. The balance is good. I used a reference track. So if you're wanting to use, if you're wanting a really good sounding mix, then please use a reference track. Bring it into your DAW. I'll show you how to do it in a future video if you want me to. And all you need to do is set the level to match what level you are going to be mixing at, because afterwards you can always master it and bring up that level. But if you're trying to push yours to be as loud as your reference track, then it's just not going to work. So you need to keep that in mind when you're doing this. So let's have a look at just the fun stuff, plugins. We all love plugins, don't we? So the way that I've arranged this is as you can see, I've put all the strings together, all the brass together, all the woodwinds together, and all the percussion. I put the pad as well in its own. Essentially, that was just because what I've done is I've frozen all of my tracks just so you can see how I would do it in a MIDI situation, where usually I would probably bounce these down and just commit to audio. I would always suggest actually commit to audio. It's much easier to work with, especially if you're happy with your automation and stuff. So once you get to that point, please go ahead and start doing that. But then with everything being in its own little place, what you can do then is freeze your tracks, and then you only have to really put a little bit of compression or EQ over one bus, and then it's only the certain tracks, the one-off track, that you might want to put a reverb or an EQ, and that's only if they're a problem in the mix. And with this one, there wasn't many at all. So yeah, let's just have a look at the pianos first. So let's solo the pianos. So this is what the pianos sound like on their own. So yeah, sound really good, much bigger than they were before. If I just quickly show you, and you'll notice that the perceived loudness is a lot louder. If I turn these all on again, but actually it's just the attack, so it's still only around -30 on this meter here. But the attack of the note is around about -18, and the way I did that was I used this API. It's by Waves. It's really nice. It's just really sweet sounding. I think the majority of the sound is actually coming from here. Then I used a free plugin. So this is the Klanghelm DC121A2, and that, you know, you'll see loads of videos about this, but essentially it just kind of does a really good job about sounding analog. So if I put this on again, you'll hear there's a little crackle. Yeah, so it's not clipping, but it's crackle, and you can see that I've matched the output to the input. That's really important. Okay, and then I've simply just put a normal compressor on it, and I've done nothing. I've literally just threw this on there, and I put it onto Studio FET, which is it's modeling an 1176, so it's coloring the sound. Yeah, and then we move on to our strings. Here I used an REQ. Now, if you can afford it, and you can get the Renaissance pack, which is, I think it's like $70 or something like that. It's not really that expensive. Then do that, and I'm just cutting out all of the lows, and I'm adding a bit of a shelf. There was a little bit of a weird frequency here. It was a nice frequency, but there was already a lot of it, so I didn't have to do that as much. And then here, my secret weapon, which is the mod rack, the multi-mod rack. So I'm using the Abbey Road Saturator in here. And if you don't know about the mod rack, essentially the mod rack is just a place where you can put 3 separate saturation plugins, and then distort a frequency range. So I only wanted to distort the top end just to bring out a little bit more of that flavor. And if I play them, and I'll put so I'll put the mixer all the way up. So this is what I was doing. Actually, I'm going to go on the red though. So that's it with it all the way up. That's really extreme. Still sounds very nice. But what it's doing is it's too saturated now. There's too much high end. I just wanted it just to cut through a little bit. So I think I had the mix on about 26, and any plugin with a mix function is just gold dust. I love it. So yeah, around about 26.2 I think it was on. And I'll just bypass this. So essentially, it's just acting like a presence boost. Woodwinds, I've got the API 550 again, and I've got it. Actually, I use the preset. It's the snare preset. Sounds great. So that just goes to show you don't have to use the same thing all the time. Again, the API sounds very good. It's just a really good clone, and I think if I had an API, I would probably still use this. So. Yeah, I'm using another one there, Classical Guitar 2. That's one of my favorites. I go to that. That sounds really sweet. And then I'm using the stock EQ plugin just to take off some of those lows. I use this stock plugin a lot, essentially because of the roll-off is at -16 on default. And it can go to -24, so it can go a little bit more of a slope, but that's great. Just so you know as well, the Renaissance stuff as well, that goes to -9 I think it is, so it's either -9 or -12 the slope. I could be wrong, but at least that's what I perceive it to be. Then I've got channel EQs, and I'm just taking out a weird frequency. So if we listen to the French horn, which one did I open? I opened this one, didn't I? And you will hear, I'll just turn that frequency up. Okay, so it's a little bit prominent there, but it's not too bad because it's an octave. It's like an octave up, I think. This one, however, you will most definitely hear. So I will turn this up as it goes. Yeah, so you got that nasally kind of sound. So I just took that out. It's usually about, if there's a prominent frequency, I take it out between 3 and 5 dB. You don't have to go really much more than that. You don't want to change the sound. Okay, so moving quickly on now, we'll go to the brass again, the API, and I've just got a low cut. And just so you know, the low cut, I'm not actually rolling off a lot below 100. The brass does have a lot of low end because I'm using a tuba in this piece, so I did have to be a little bit careful. But then I've got a timpani as well that's adding some of that sub, yeah. So that the timpani will come on in a little bit higher than a bass drum, but yeah, it's great. So that leaves us to the percussion. And I ended up doing quite a bit really in the percussion. It doesn't look like it here, but I ended up putting an Abbey Roads just to bring that high end out. And it's on the TG setting. I have no idea what these TG red and off. Well, I know what off is, yeah, but I don't know what the TG setting is. I just know it sounds good. The red setting sounds a little bit more fuller. So yeah, if any of you know, please let me know. But yeah, it's great. But yeah, them on their own, this is what they sound like. Okay, with these out as well. Yeah, so I'll put it back here. So I'm just bringing things out, giving it all a little bit more top end. Okay, so now to the stereo out. This is a really good, so you've seen me use the REQ. This is a good tip. I use it in a mono on, I use the mono one on stereo out. And on the left channel, I will raise it by 2 dB. On the right channel, I'll lower the high end by 2 dB as well. And what that does is it just pushes a little bit of the sound out, because I'm using ozone here just to do the just to bring up the level essentially, because everything is quite flat. I'm doing a little bit more EQ in it. And by the way, do not use the mastering assistant. Just stay away from the mastering assistant. It's okay. You know, it will get you a passable sound, but if you're sending this to somebody, then they're not going to take any bit of notice. Stereo Imager, I believe they've got a new one out, but this one is just as good. I'm adding a little bit of width because I've already added a little bit with the Renaissance EQ. And I like the second setting in the stereo eyes. That's really, really good. It worked well for this piece. The maximizer. Now, when you're using anything like this, you need a loudness meter. Okay, so this, you need to know where the LU range or the LUFS range is peaking. For this genre, it only needs to be between minus 13 and minus 10, and I think I'm peaking between minus 7 and minus 8 in places. So this is a little bit hot, but that's okay because it's not squashing the dynamic range. If you listen with your ears, then you'll know when you're squashing it too much, because it won't really sound over compressed, but you'll get some harmonic distortion in there as well. So if you've got a good set of speakers or headphones, just take a little listen to that upper register. And if you can't hear it, a good tip that I've sometimes used is just get your stock EQ, take all the low end out below, I don't know, 2K, and just take a listen to see if you can hear any of that harsh distortion. It'll usually end up around about 5K, but that's a good tip anyway. You know, if you're starting out and you're wanting to to work out where to listen. You know, the number one thing with this, guys, is if it sounds good, it's good. If it sounds bad, it's bad. And the only way you're going to know is by you listening to tracks that you love and that are in the same genre. Okay, so yeah, that concludes this anyway, and let's go back to the other guy.
Okay guys, so that concludes the final video in this series, and I just wanted to let you know if there's anything that you want me to go over that you're thinking that somebody else isn't doing, or you want more elaboration or a different perspective on, please just drop it down there. I do listen, and it'll go onto my list and we will get around to it. Yeah, and I want to just welcome you as well if this is your first time here. My name is Jeff, and you know, I'm here to serve you, so thank you very much, guys. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody as well who already support me as well. I've already had some great suggestions as well from some people, so just to answer a couple of those some of those questions, this track here, the actual stems will be bounced down, and I'll be offering them on Patreon. So if you want to support me on Patreon, then you can go on there, and for a small subscription every month, I think I'm going to put all of the MIDI stems and all of the audio stems up there, so that you can download them and you can manipulate them. You can see exactly how my music sounds, so then you can apply those same techniques as well and get the same results in your work. So I'll be adding to that as well. If there's anybody wants any specific like mentorship or anything like that, then let me know in the comments and we'll get it sorted. Okay, cheers guys, see you later.